special meeting this Wednesday, June 1st, in the Redondo Beach City Council chambers located at 415 Diamond Street, Redondo Beach. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7 p.m. And now I'd like to turn this over to Ms. Orta for roll call.
Good evening, commissioners. Commissioner Sharma? Present. Commissioner Cagle? Commissioner Klein?
Here.
Commissioner Melendez?
Here.
Commissioner Christian Kelly?
Here.
Commissioner Pucci?
Here.
And Chair Lappin.
Here. Okay, if everyone would now join me in saluting the flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the order of agenda if there are no problems with it?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second it.
Okay, motion passes. Blue folder items, the agenda item E. There are 2 blue folder items that are noted here. One of them is, will be reviewed in agenda item J2 with the Historical Commission Subcommittee update. And I still don't see the second item here.
So Chair, if I may, we did notice right before the meeting that although the notification went out, it's not linking itself to the agenda, and we're not quite sure why that's happening just yet, but we'll look into that. So if I may, I'm happy to read the letter that was supposed to be included as part of the blue item, or blue folder item.
Okay, so that would be under item J1, and that would be when we do public comment for J1. We can start public comment if you would like to read that then. Does that make sense to you?
If that works for the commission, that is perfectly fine.
I think that's
Yep.
fine.
Okay. And then Chair, if I may, before we move on, I didn't get the voting on the last item. So if we can just ask for a vote.
A roll call vote?
If roll call or whatever the commission
All
would
right, so
prefer, yeah, that'd be
moving
great.
back to agenda item D, approval of the order of agenda. Who made the motion?
I did.
Commissioner Pucci made the motion and Commissioner Sharma seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the consent calendar, agenda item F. Business items, except those formally noticed for public hearing or discussion, are assigned to the consent calendar. The commission members may request that any consent calendar items be removed, discussed, and acted upon separately. Items removed from the consent calendar will be taken up under the excluded consent calendar section, and the rest of the items will be approved in one motion following any oral communications. Do any commissioners wish to remove anything from the consent calendar?
No.
Be including the approval of affidavit of posting. Regarding the approval of minutes, the minutes dated March 23rd, 2022. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes?
I do not.
No corrections. Okay, then I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Orta for the Public Fund, Art Fund report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So at the beginning of our fiscal year, which starts on July 1st, 2021, the account had a balance of $634,693.86. Since then, and through May 5th, the revenue that has been deposited into that account is $241,178.20. The city has spent $1,250 out of that account, so the current balance is $874,622.06. And I do just want to note, because there was a bit of a change in this report from when this agenda was posted last week, and then had to be rescheduled for today. So I just want to mention that there was a refund that was owed to the Legato project. So they made their deposit into this account, which is required of any large projects in the city for the Public Art Fund. And it was found that they essentially overpaid. And so that refund, was paid back to them. So the total is what I just read, the accurate total. So the balance is $874,622.06. So just wanted to clarify why the numbers were different on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, may I call for a motion to receive and file the consent calendar?
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file.
Commissioner Pucci has made the motion. May I have a second?
I second it.
Commissioner Sharma's second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There were no items excluded from the consent calendar, so we'll go on to agenda item H, public participation on non-agenda items. And if I could turn this over to staff for any public e-comments or emails that we may have received.
We currently don't have any e-comments, and we do have one speaker that is here this evening. And if I can call up Mr. Ron Morocco.
Good evening, Commissioners. I did want to personally thank Chair Lappin and Commissioner Sharma for coming to our Historic Museums event, and of course, Commissioner Kristen Kelly, who bravely opened up the Morale House so that everybody could enjoy the art that we had over there. So we appreciate the support. When you do get to item J2, I would like the opportunity to introduce to you the daughter of the Ito family, which will be part of your discussion. She's here to talk with you a little bit later about the artwork itself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chair, that concludes any signups that we have. Do we have anyone on Zoom that would like to speak?
Yes, I have Nona Jansen Walls. It's unknown what she wanted to speak about. So I'm just going to allow her to speak right now. Nona, you will have 3 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. So my name is Nona Jansen-Walls. I am a library commissioner here for the city of Redondo Beach, but I am participating as a private citizen. I would be interested in speaking on the, I believe it's item J2, the potential future use of the Historic Library Community Center. However, my main purpose for attending today is to listen in on the Public Art Commission's recommendations and get a better idea of some of the alternate uses that are being proposed. So I have nothing else to add right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if we can call on her again when we get to to the public comment portion of item J1, which we're almost there. So I don't believe there are any items that we have continued from previous agenda, which is item I on the agenda. So I think we can move right into item J. And the first item there is to receive and file data from the Veterans Park Community Center, community engagement regarding future use of the facility, and the Public Art Commission to provide a recommendation on future uses of the facility. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Orda for her presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So we have put together a presentation that will go through all of the survey data that we have collected, as well as our kind of comprehensive outreach plan. And so with that, I'm going to jump in. Just wanted to briefly go through with the commission a really quick history and some high-level facts of the facility. And so it's an 11,400 square foot landmark building, and it is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And in 1930 to 1991, it did serve as the city's main library facility, hence the name Historic Library, as a lot of people know it as. It was closed due to seismic damage, and it was then repurposed by the city from 1991 to 95 to be used as a banquet and special events center, which is then when it became the Veterans Park Community Center. So as you likely have seen through all of our outreach materials and marketing for our public outreach plan, we have called it the Community Center, Veterans Park Community Center and Historic Library. We didn't want there to be any confusion with that. So we do use both of those interchangeably. So just want to make sure that that is clear. So in 95, the city did issue an RFP, which is essentially a proposal for anyone who was interested and had the means to manage that facility. And in 1996, the city did award a contract with Spectrum Holding, who did oversee that facility through 2020. And so in 2013, that contract was renewed. And so Spectrum was in that facility managing it from 1996 through 2020. Late in 2020 is when that agreement expired. The facility was closed for several months at that time because of the pandemic. And so Spectrum Holding did not want to extend their agreement any further. And so the facility has sat empty since then. We don't have a current vendor or concessionaire in the facility. And so kind of how we got to where we are today is that in January of this year, we presented a draft RFP that mirrored similar to the relationship that the city had with Spectrum Holding. We presented a draft RFP to the city council to see if we can have another concessionaire come in to manage the facility. At that time, the council requested for staff to kind of pause on that and to do some outreach with the community to then see, is there another use for the facility that the community would desire? Let's be a little creative with our approaches to the facility. And so that's kind of where we are. So we did put together an outreach plan that included an online survey. It was actually a total of 2 surveys. There was one for the community to complete, and then a second one that was specific for potential concessionaires to complete, because they kind of look at the facility in a different lens than the community does. So we had 2 surveys that were live in the month of March. We held 2 open houses. We had one on March 10th and then another one on April 27th, where we had probably about 75 people come through combined at both of those events. So we're really happy to see people walk through the facility, especially because it's been sitting empty for so long. It was nice to get a little life back in the facility. And then we do have a series of community discussions that we have planned. So we did bring this to the Parks and Recreation Commission on April 13th. And then, of course, we're here this evening to present the data and input that we've received so far to the Public Art Commission. So we're just going to jump right into the survey data. For the community survey, we had a total of 312 responses, which we were really happy with the turnout of that. The survey itself, was a total of 6 questions, and with the concessionaire survey, we received 11 responses. And so we were very happy actually with overall the total responses we received for both surveys. And so I'm just going to quickly go through the questions. The ones that we are looking at this evening are the ones on the community survey. Included with the admin report is the data and results from the concessionaire survey, so that information is still in there. We did certainly look at it and analyze it and incorporated it where it made the most sense, but just want to let you know that we're focusing really on the community survey data for tonight's discussion. So question 1 just asked if they were Redondo Beach residents. We had just about 90% of the responses, just over 90%, were residents of Redondo, which is a really good showing of the community responses on the data. So we were happy to see that. Number 2, how familiar familiar, are you with the Veterans Park Community Center and Historic Library Facility? Just over 70% were, I should take a step back. With 0 on the scale, 0 would be not familiar at all, 100 would be very familiar. It was just over 70% that were familiar. So definitely above average. People were familiar with the facility enough to at least give the city confidence that their responses were coming from an informed place. Question number 3, have you ever attended an event or activity at the facility? It was pretty split down the middle. Just about 50% had, whereas 50% hadn't. So what that tells us is that while a lot of people knew of the facility, maybe knew where it was located or has walked by, only about half of the people had actually been inside the facility and actually seen something taking place inside the facility. Doesn't necessarily mean too much with the data, except that you certainly can get a different feel and imagine different uses if you've actually seen it in motion and in play. Question number 4, please select the following new amenities that you would like the city to consider incorporating into future uses of the Veterans Park facility. These uses were ones that were mentioned, that staff has heard mentioned throughout several discussions since January. And so this included an outdoor patio space, which was about 65% of the responses included that as a vote. A performance area or band shell was just over 60%. And then just under 10%, maybe about 7, said none of the above. No one was really interested in outdoor patio space or performance area. And then there was about just under 40% did want to specify some other ideas. And so the top ideas that came in or off to the side of the comment section were a low-cost community event, or excuse me, community space or events or a meeting space essentially, so community-centered type of a feel. 29 of the general comments noted some sort of art or sculpture garden type of a facility, so an art focus. And then 21 responses noted a cafe or restaurant and incorporating some sort of an outdoor patio space. So question 5 is we just asked to provide their interest for each of the following potential uses. And so the column on the left, the selection ranking, those were the ones that that the respondents had to essentially rank. And so the top selection there was a pop-up space for rotating uses, and we'll get into a little bit in just a moment what that really means. The second ranking was for a traditional community center. The third was an art gallery. And then the fourth is a rental facility, followed by cafe or daily food service. And then number 6 is an art museum. And so again, there was an other option for open-ended comments. And just want to note some of the higher level or more regular comments that were received here was an art focused facility. Art certainly popped up a lot throughout the survey responses, which I'm sure the commission is happy to hear. But that was the number 1 extra comment that we received in that question. Low-cost community space for events or meetings was another, a library, a scout house, and then again, food or some sort of outdoor space usage. And our final question is to provide any other comments or suggestions. So really just an open-ended question. Did we miss anything? Is there anything else you want to include? And these in ranking order are the words that showed up. We actually inserted all of the responses into an online kind of word cloud generator. And these in ranking order is the words that came out on top. So art was by far the number 1 word that popped up in the number of comments, followed by event, local, community, historic, and keep. It was interesting at the open house, we had a few people that walked through that just said, you're not going to tear the facility down or turn it into a hotel. We're going to keep it, right? And so I wasn't surprised to see that in there, but anyone walking through the facility, I mean, to imagine it not being there is a bit sad to even ponder. So I'm glad to see that it reflected in the survey results, because just in speaking to the handful of people that did come, it's a beloved facility. And so I'm excited to be part of this process to see exactly what it can be at its full of potential. So that's the survey data, and this kind of brings us to really where we are this evening. So again, I won't go through each one of these because we did kind of already speak on each one of these, but this is a general overview of our outreach plan. You could see we're almost to the finish line of presenting this to City Council. So this evening, we're going to receive feedback from you all on the Public Art Commission. And then we will take all of that to City Council. And as of today, that is scheduled to take place at the Council's July 5th meeting. So, for the purpose of tonight's discussion, we really, what staff did is we looked at all the data and all of the comments that we received, and we tried to figure out what are the top 2 or 3 kind of themes that we were seeing, and tried to figure out, is there a way that we can get some additional input from the commissions to help refine what that input is. And so this evening, and we're asking what we did is we created 3 questions that we will go through individually. We did ask the Rec and Parks Commission these exact same 3 questions. Their kind of general feedback is provided in the admin report. We will go through each one individually as well as we kind of go through the questions. But just briefly, these are the 3 questions. And again, I'll go through each one a little bit more as we go through. But the first question, it talks about the use of a pop-up space and how best or what type of uses can be incorporated as part of that. The second question goes to the shared use concept and really how that can be imagined in the facility. And then the third is the concept of having the facility there available for the community at low cost, make it as accessible essentially to residents of Redondo. One of the things that we did here pretty regularly during the open houses was so many people were excited to just walk through because they couldn't before because it was so expensive to rent. And so again, I wasn't surprised to see that in the survey data that the community just wants to be able to use it at a reasonable cost. And so where we're at now is question number 1. And I know this is really long, so I appreciate you all bearing with me. So before we jump into the questions, I don't know if the commissioners has a specific question for me that I can answer and kind of help clarify. The plan is to go through each question individually. We'll keep the slide up as we go through each one so you can kind of see all of the information as we are responding. My hope is that we can just get feedback from you all. Doesn't necessarily have to be a full consensus. It doesn't necessarily have to be a formal motion, although it certainly can be. We're really just trying to get the input of the commission on all of these questions and kind of see where the commission would like us to relay its desires to the City Council. So I don't know if the commission has any questions of me before we dive into these questions. I'm happy to answer that now, or we can do public comment. It's really up to the commission.
So first of all, I can't get my mic.
You're on.
You're-
It is
No, you
on?
turned it off.
Oh, the red light's not.
There is a slight delay when
For a
you press
second.
it. There you
Okay,
go.
there you go. So I would like to, I have a statement that I would like to read to the commissioners about this, and then I'd like to have commissioner discussion about everything, and then I'd like to call for a public comment after that. That's sort of the order that I would like to see it go in. Do you want me to read my statement before you go through the questions? Do you have a preference?
I think it's probably better suited that we get public comment, your statement. I can also read that letter that we had added. I was supposed to have added as blue folder. So it's probably better for you to do it now and then see,
Okay.
and then have the commission make discussions. But that's where if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer it. But if we can save discussions until after the public comment, it's probably the best order.
Okay, very good. So I'm very excited about this opportunity, and I think that our city has a unique opportunity to reimagine the use of this inspiring historic library on our Redondo Beach waterfront as a creative art center. enriching and enhancing the lives of our residents by bringing art and culture to our community and offering another Redondo Beach feature to contribute to our tourism and visitor destination amenities, supporting and increasing revenue for our local hotels and businesses. Most of our surrounding South Bay sister cities provide their residents and visitors with some type of art center or museum for visual arts. Torrance Art Museum, the El Segundo Art Museum of Art, the Manhattan Beach Art Center, the Palos Verdes Art Center, and others. Redondo Beach should increase their presence in the South Bay art culture with the creation of its own creative arts center, providing visual and other arts and community services for its residents and visitors. There are many ways a creative arts center can be utilized to support our community, providing platforms for all arts as well as other mixed and shared uses, potentially including visual arts and galleries, a place for local artists to display their work, and a place to mount curated and rotating exhibitions with local, international, national, and emerging artists. Smaller types, salon-type performing arts, including music, dance, and theater. Talks, lectures on creative and intellectual content. Poetry and literary arts, potentially as a collaboration with the library. Art education. Classes, workshops for both adult and youth. Gift shop for local artists manned by either volunteers or a licensed operator, which could be a potential revenue source. A cafe leased to a licensed restaurant or catering operator, which could also be a potential revenue source. Could also be used as meeting rooms for use or rent to the general public as well as use by city staff. The Creative Arts Center Gallery should always be offered free to the public. Other services and classes could potentially be charged for to offset costs and increase revenues. I strongly recommend the Public Art Commission urge City Council to support the creation of a creative arts center. Now more than ever, we need art to lift our souls and look with hope to the future. Thank you. So with that, Kelly, do we go back to your questions and open it for discussion? Or do you want me to just open it for discussion?
Sorry, I was having trouble with my mic this time.
Me too.
I would recommend doing public comment, unless there's questions of the commission. So if we can kind of separate it from questions and then having the discussion after public comment. So if there's no questions, I can read the letter to start it off, and then we can open it up to public comment if the commission is okay with that.
Commissioner Melendez?
I have a question on, when you guys did the data for the polling,
Yes.
was their age, did people put their ages? Did you guys poll the data of what ages were answered, the respondents back?
We did not request the ages of the respondents.
Okay. I think some of those next time, like polling things, sometimes that helps to gauge the age range of who's answering these things.
Sure.
That was a question that,
Yeah.
so.
Do any other commissioners have any questions or comments? No. So then, can we please move into the public comment portion?
Sure. So before we turn it over to anyone here as well as online, I'll just read the letter. Again, this is a letter that was supposed to have been added as a blue folder item. We will make sure that it is in fact added online, but it is from Ms. Rosine Sorbum, and she is the president of the Redondo Beach Arts Group. And so her letter says, hello, I am Rosine Sorbum, president of the Redondo Beach Arts Group and membership chair for the Friends of Redondo Beach Arts. I'm sorry that I could not be here in person due to prior commitments. While I am a Torrance resident, I find myself spending a lot of time in Redondo shopping, enjoying the beach, and dining. The one thing I find missing in Redondo is a community space for the visual arts. The historic library in Veterans Park could be such a place, carrying on the tradition of service to the community. First as a library where I spent many hours reading books by the open window overlooking the ocean, and perhaps now as a community culture arts center for the visual arts. It could be a vibrant place of creative instruction, a central location to present art to the community in the form of art shows and events, and a gathering place for creativity. I urge you to consider allowing this venerable and historic building to continue to be a central place of gathering and service to the community in the form of a visual cultural arts center. Thank you for your time and consideration. And so with that, I will turn it over to Michelle to see if there's anyone online or here in person?
We currently do not have any e-comments, but we have 4 participants on Zoom. So I am going to allow Deborah Collette to speak. Deborah, you will have 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Just want to thank the commission for all that you do and that you are doing. I'm Debbie Collette. I've been a resident of Redondo Beach for over 50 years, and I'm currently the president of Friends of Redondo Beach Arts and have been a member of the Redondo Beach Art Group since 2007. I'm also an artist and continue to promote the arts through the local art groups and the beautification of our city. I'm in total support that the historical library should be the location of a new creative arts center for Redondo Beach. It's been the goal and mission of both groups to see an art center established here for the community. This feels like the perfect time for new growth and creativity and something to look forward to that will benefit us all. A center that offers exhibitions, classes, workshops, exploring all the arts. As a new president, I've been reading a lot about transforming communities through culture and arts. And what I've learned is that having a center the community can be proud of deepens their involvement and commitment. It's arts education and fulfillment for all individuals. It becomes a part of our spirit to better our city through the arts, and I've learned how that can connect us all. I'm excited for this possibility, and I strongly recommend the location of Creative Arts Center in our beautiful historic library. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Next, we have Nona Walls. Nona, you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Commission, for taking up this very important opportunity that we have as a city, as a community of Redondo Beach. I am a 20-plus year veteran, or a resident of Redondo Beach, a homeowner of Redondo Beach, and 2 children in our family are alumni of Redondo Beach. So I have a great love for the city and a great love for what we can do to attract and retain tourism and additional, interest in our city as a destination location. A couple people have already mentioned the love of the building, how beautiful it is. It's historic. And I agree with all of the sentiments around keeping it and preserving it in its style and its grace as much as we possibly can. That being said, I know that there's a lot of different ideas and thoughts about what to do with the library. My most important thing is to figure out how we can have some collaboration on that. So it's not just a cafe or just a museum or just a performing arts center, that we can figure out a way to have different ideas, different concepts, and different groups come in and show their wares. And that would include not only the traditional arts. Thank you for the call out for the library or for the literary arts. I do appreciate that, but also potentially some mixed media or some new media arts from the Redondo High School or the surrounding community. I think that could be neat to have that in there. My husband and I were 2 of the people who were fortunate enough to be able to attend one of the open houses, and the facility itself is beautiful. If you've not walked through it, I highly recommend you find a way to kind of tour it. The front area does lend itself quite well to potentially a visitor center, information kiosk, or something to make it even more welcoming, especially for folks from out of town. And I think it would also be interesting to have some input from the Historical Commission if they were to have some sort of rotating exhibit or something to help us learn about the history of Redondo Beach so that we can help protect the future. That's all I have today. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Nona. Next, we have Catherine Bull. Catherine, you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I'm with Made by Meg, and we are right down the street from the library. We love to get out of the kitchen every once in a while to take a break and walk through the park. Myself and a couple of our coworkers are huge FIG fans, And we desperately wish that we could eat the figs from that gorgeous tree out front, but I've researched it and they're not supposed to be eaten. So we'll have to take a pass on that one, but that's too bad. It's such a beautiful tree. We envision the beauty of the Veterans Park Community Center and historic library facility being shared, celebrated, and enjoyed by families and groups coming together. We're envisioning food and wine tastings, anniversaries, company galas, pop-up garden cafes, paint and pour galleries, showers, bar and bat mitzvahs, celebrations of life, weddings, birthdays, cooking classes, and many, many more. And we were thinking, what about community artwork curated by the Art Commission to add a unique and regional aesthetic to the charm of the library, which could be enjoyed by people coming to the library for these many, many commemorative occasions. We'd like to enhance the celebrations in the historic library space with locally sourced seasonal food and sustainable business practices supported by excellent hospitality, as we are a catering company. And importantly, to support this, we would love to endow the future vision of the Veterans Park Community Center and Historic Library Facility by establishing and investing in an accrual fund for continuous improvement. This would include working with the city of Redondo Beach on social media campaigns, advertising, marketing plans, sustainability initiatives, decor and smallwares, kitchen equipment, etc. We at Made by Meg want to put money back into the community of Redondo Beach. So thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Catherine. Next, we have Nina Landon. Nina, you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Nina Zach-Ladden. I have been promoting the arts in Redondo Beach for over 20 years, starting with hands-on art for children and moving on to the Redondo Beach Art Group, which I was a co-founder, president emeritus, and the founder of The Power of Art. I've been on the board of Friends of Redondo Beach Arts since its beginning in 2006. I was the chair of the Public Art Task Force, and I'm the curator of California 101. Since the beginning of working in the arts for the city of Redondo Beach, we always were looking for a home for the art community. And we decided that we always will stay in Redondo Beach. Therefore, we moved from the Galleria to Riviera Village to Pier Plaza to King Harbor to AAS Power Plant. And now, finally, we will be able to do the California 101 art exhibition at the Historic Library. So I want to just take a second to tell you the reaction of artists from all over Southern California who walk into this space and fall in love with it immediately. It is clearly a perfect building, a perfect location to have a creative arts center, which Redondo Beach truly needs. My co-founder for the Redondo Beach Art Group is Karen Bachman. She couldn't be here tonight, and I would just like to read a few sentences from her. She said, I would like to thank the Public Art Commission for letting us present our proposal for creating an art center here in Redondo Beach. As co-founder and treasurer of the Redondo Beach Art Group, I want to let the city and this commission know that over the years, through our Power of Art events, the Redondo Beach Art Group has been able to raise funds via donations specifically set aside for the establishment of an art center. If the city agrees to move forward with this project, these funds will be donated to the city. Thank you, Karen Bachman. And for me, I would like to encourage the Public Art Commission and staff to recommend to City Council that the Historic Library will be what Redondo truly needs, a creative art center. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. That was the last speaker.
Thank you very much. So we will now move into the questions and discussion portion.
Any chance I can make a comment, please?
Yeah, I was going to recommend, I don't know if anyone in the audience would like
Oh,
to
I'm
speak.
terribly sorry. I thought
That's
we were
okay.
done.
That's okay. So did you want to?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Orhan Taner, and I'm a preservation commissioner, but I'm here tonight as a private citizen. Thank you for everything, and thank you for the chair for a beautiful summary. You basically said everything what I wanted to say. As the staff knows, over the past 6 months, I've been speaking in front of various forums, including the Parks and Recreation Commission, my own commission, the Preservation Commission, about the fact that the historic library should be turned into an art museum. And I use the word museum, and that's the reason why I wanted to talk today, as the next step, as a higher understanding of the Creative Arts Center. As you all know, a museum eventually will have its own collection. Yes, there are several museums in our neighboring cities, like the El Segundo is a private museum. Manhattan Beach, where I used to be a cultural arts commissioner myself, does not have a museum. And I think it's important for a city of the size of Redondo Beach to start thinking about having an arts museum. Therefore, I would urge the commission, when you make your recommendation, to think about the concept about having a museum which will have a purpose, its own purpose-built nonprofit. So it will be easier to raise money specifically for a museum. Museums can basically go out and raise a lot of funds, as you know. There's plenty of funding out there right now in the state at the national level. So it's very important to also think about how you want to organize this thing, how you want to go about this in terms of raising both private and public funds. Having a creative arts center is a fantastic idea, but let's also immediately start thinking about the next step, how we want to organize this. And I think creating a Redondo Beach, I would like to call it the Redondo Beach Modern Art Museum or Contemporary Art Museum, which will also be able to, obviously, to exhibit local artists as well as host local shows. But the entity needs to be in a museum concept. And I just wanted to leave you with that. And I thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Chair. We have Deborah Collette who raised her hand. Would you like for
Yes,
us
please.
to allow her to speak? Okay. Deborah Collette, you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I did speak earlier, so I'm raising my hand. Actually, Patty Lynette had also registered to give public comment, but her screen was not working, so she is here to share mine, so she couldn't go on the link. So if I can have Patty make a statement, if that's all right.
Yes, go ahead, Patty.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. I'm Patty Lynette, and thank you, commissioners and chair, for listening tonight and letting me jump in like this. I am a Redondo Beach resident, and I am Redondo Beach mosaic artist. Debbie and I have done a lot of public artwork together. You may know of some of it. I'm also a member of both of the art groups, Redondo Beach Art Group, as well as Friends of Redondo Beach Arts. And just kind of piggybacking off what Nina had mentioned is that every year when we try to do, in either of these groups, when they try to do an exhibition, we are just always looking for a venue to hold these events. Both groups have put on just wonderful exhibitions over the years, but that's always been the challenge is where are we going to have our next one? And what are we going to have to do to get it set up for that? And it's just been a tremendous challenge. So I just see this opportunity at the Historic Library to have this creative arts center where both groups can flourish and both groups can have a home for exhibits for the community. Again, to offer classes, to have rotating artists come in, the possibilities are endless. And I just think this is the closest we've ever come to having this really come to fruition. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your consideration and looking forward to seeing what you all will bring to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
I want to thank everybody for participating and for all of their comments. And with that, I believe there's no one else left to speak here, and we have no one else on Zoom or phone. Is that correct?
Correct. Chair.
Okay, very
Correct,
good.
Chair. We do not have any e-comments either.
Okay, so now we will move on to the next phase of discussion and questions.
Okay.
Disorder.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. All right. So thank you for bearing with us, one on the presentation, and also, again, seeking some additional input from the community. It is, as you can see, it's such an important topic to so many in the community. And so we'll jump into this. Again, like I stated, it would be the preference to go through each one of these individually. I'll go through each question and then also provide you with the general feedback of the the Recs and Park Commission. And then I'll just ask you all to provide your own input on each of the individual questions. So with that, the first one states, considering the community's desire to utilize the facility as a pop-up space, are there certain uses that you would prefer? And are there certain uses that would not be favorable? So specific to a pop-up space, it's essentially a venue that is meant to be temporary, so anywhere from a day to several weeks. So a lot of pop-up spaces are like 2 to 3 month rotations. So you could have a use that's there for 2 to 3 months, have a specific vendor using the facility. And then after that 2 to 3 months is over, a new vendor comes in and does what they want to do in the facility. And so specific to this type of a use, we're just kind of curious to hear if there's certain uses that you would prefer to be part of a pop-up space, and ones that wouldn't be favorable. So specific to the survey that we received, there was a lot of, again, art focus, such as galleries or art studios for the pop-up space. The ideas between a cafe and a restaurant, and maybe there's different types of vendors for that rotate through. And then also a live performance venue was another option. And the input that was received from the Rec and Parks Commission is that the pop-up space concept include an art focus again. And the purpose behind that is to really allow a greater audience to enjoy the space. So what they really liked about this idea is that maybe for a few months it's modern art, maybe the next few months is a different type of medium or a different type of an exhibition. And so so they really like that kind of idea that you're going to reach a different type of an audience every few weeks. Their other feedback from them is to incorporate the use of the outdoor space. They really like the idea of seeing if there's different ways to kind of join the interior and exterior. There is an existing kind of concrete pad on the western side of the facility, so closest to the water, that's already there. So if there's ways that can be incorporated into some of the indoor space. And then lastly was to consider a way to prioritize community groups' uses of the facility at low cost. And again, that was some of the data that we had pulled as well. So the commission agreed with looking into that as well. So happy to answer any questions on here. But if not, I'm just going to feverishly be writing down all of your guys' input and let me know if you guys have any questions on pop-up space concept here.
So I'd like to hear Commissioner's comments. Commissioner Pucci, would you like to start?
Sure. I'm not sure exactly how this will all be, like, I guess, overall facilitated. Like, will the city of Redondo Beach have a specific staff member that will be in charge of taking care of all the ins and outs of if it's a pop-up, or if we decide to make it just a Redondo Beach art museum, like how exactly? I think that's important to know before deciding, it should be a pop-up and someone else runs it. I guess that's my main question, who would be running all the different options.
Sure, and that was kind of one of the questions we had as well, is how you have a recommendation, but then how do you implement it? And for the purposes of this topic, the focus right now is to figure out what is the desire of the facility, And then from that point, we can figure out how can we implement that? Do we need to hire additional resources? Is that something that can be done in-house? Do we need to contract with a private vendor to essentially manage the vendors in the facility? And so there's so many models that we can look at, but we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into a particular type of model that then may not be compatible with a certain use. So we're really just looking at the use, and then we'll try and figure out how best we can implement that.
Okay. In regards to, I guess, my input for this, I love the idea of it being all of the things that are on the survey, like an art-focused gallery that has a cafe, that depending on the event, that they have the ability to have live music there for that event. So as far as my input as a commissioner, to be able to have all of those things would be, I guess, the best use. I'm done.
Commissioner Melendez, did you wish to comment?
Yeah, a couple things on, just because this is coming up on the council too, is if we're talking about pop-ups, if it's something like a food pop-up, that's a thing. It doesn't have to necessarily be art. Like somebody might be somebody that wants to rent it like that, right? Or like a craft beer person might want to rent that. Or, you know, it's coming up the marijuana initiative. Like, will those type of vendors be able to get in there too? Like you asked, like, what were things that we might not want, and thinking ahead of getting ahead of that in any event that you have maybe either a process to make it harder for them or to facilitate those kind of things to make it cool enough that we're not running into issues down the road. Like if a beer person wants to go in there, like, would they be able to use the space? Those kind of things. And then on the flip side of it, the other thing is that I don't know how else to say it, but it seems like everybody's got their sights set on this space to do everything. Food brings people there for anything. I mean, if we had cakes outside here, we'd probably have more people in the audience. Food's always a good thing to bring in revenue. But then you got to have people to manage it. The other thing is it's performing arts aspect of it. We already have a performing arts center on the other side of town that I don't know. I don't even know what we're doing with that. So that would be one aspect I would say to like strike maybe and have a little more focus on these other aspects that other people want as far as it being a creative art space. The gentleman that spoke here tonight was talking about, which I agree with, is whether people believe it or not, like Redondo Beach isn't a small city anymore. We do have to preserve the history that was here. Everybody that spoke tonight has been here, longtime residents. The space has to have space for that. I would imagine as we modernize some of the old spaces, a lot of that content is we have to curate it. You're going to be taking down buildings. Things are going to be disappearing. All that old Redondo Beach is either got to get put into storage somewhere so we can sort it out and then incorporate it into a museum. That's got to be an aspect, it sounds like, of the space. But at the same time, as this gentleman had spoke about, Redondo Beach is not a small city anymore. And we kind of think about the future and thinking about modern art and some of these other multimedia installations instead of just paint, pottery, and crafts. We've got to start thinking not like, you know, what we want the space a year from now, but what it's going to look like for these kids that just walked outside of this building at the high school across the street. Are they going to want to hang out there? That kind of thing. And that was kind of more my question of the age range of what's going on here. While we got to appease our local residents that have been here a long time, we've also got to get people into the door to pay for this space. So we also got to think about, you know, how we're going to pay for this and what's the draw. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Melendez. So, can I ask you to hold your question until after we finished our discussion process?
The military may take off in under 2 hours on a flight, go to either Alaska or Arizona or Utah. And this is a relevant question because I have children, they're minor children that are going to Redondo and to Miracosta High School. I'm just asking for your prayers. I'm not asking for anything more than that. I did leave a message with the mayor of Redondo, and I put on his voicemail. Someone asked me to make a police report. I'm hesitant to do that because I really feel that it's up to your board to try and deal with this problem, because my children have been in the hands of the military for going on 7 years. My kid's dad is in the Army for.
So I'm going to stop you, thank you for your comment, but this is not,
John, Noah, Jarmila, John.
this is not the appropriate forum for your, we are the Public Art Commission, we are not the city council.
7/21/2003, he's at risk for being kidnapped by a twin of Vince Bashiri at 484-665-2689.
No, you stay here.
And
No, I know
I've been
her.
silent
Oh, you
now
do?
for a year.
I know
have been
her.
silent for 1 year. I've never come to me, but they're at risk for being kidnapped. My kid's father works at Costco at Priest and Elliott. You want to call him? It's Jose Jarmillo, 02/24/1968, and his brother works for the Army for 25 years. Yeah. So it's John Jarmillo, Johnson Christos. His brother works for the airport, and the operations of the airport would really appreciate your support. With the military families that would like to stay in Redondo, and there are like 100 kids that would like to stay in your city, can try and work with them, and my brother will probably fund it. So his number is 480-332-3262. My cousin is a billionaire in medical research and science. Yeah. So it's 480-332-3262. I only have the mercy of you. Doesn't matter. I only have the mercy of you. I'm leaving right now, but I am at the mercy of you to contact operations and Steven Seagal, because my cousin works with this program with Steven Spielberg. They travel in 5 states, and it doesn't matter. These kids are 17, they're the youngest, and David and the military have custody. So it's 480-332-3262. We are blessed to see our children, Jose and I. This number is 480-593-8181, and Sergio's number is 480-703-2349, and my daughter is 480-316-6091, and they're at risk, the 17-year-olds, of being human trafficked. If you care, you might want to write that down. 480-332-3262, if you care. You have no one in your seats, guys, so start being more proactive about children. Honestly, you have no one in your seats. So start trying to be more proactive about kids, and you'll have all these seats filled. I've not come here a year because every time I go to the mayor's office, you have a secretary who won't even let me leave a message for the mayor. And 5 times I've been to your desk at the mayor's office, I can't even leave one sentence for your mayor. So that is why I'm here. This is why you don't have anyone in your building right here for this meeting. Because your people and their secretaries are so disrespectful. A citizen of your city can't even leave one sentence. I have 5 years in social work, guys. 5 years in social work. I've spent more than 7,000 hours working with obese children for Weight Watchers Summer Camp, Salve Regina College, and I've even worked with princes children from the White House of Saudi Arabia who adore me. So I have tons of funding for your city if you'll let me help you. And please put my kids in your prayers tonight. They don't leave to Alaska. 480-332-3262. My brother's on the oil committee of Alaska. He's going to run for governor soon. And I do not want my kids in Alaska. It's very dangerous. My sister's son died in Alaska. He was shot by an Asian man, and he died at the age of 20 years old in Alaska. I do not want my children in Alaska. So that is his number. Again, the father's number is 480-593-8181. And I plead with you to use your common sense. Eric Chavez Ruiz is the stepfather. We are estranged. We were not together for 7 years. We were not together. But he is the stepfather legally. So I plead the blood of Jesus Christ that my kids not finding danger in Alaska. Because of course Eric wants to go for the summer to make $60,000 a year in one summer. I mean, that's what they make. They're fishermen. So I plead that you would, speak to Eric's heart and ask him not to leave to Alaska. It's a very dangerous place for my children. Hello. Hi. Oh, sure.
Thank you so much, officer.
Okay, so moving on.
Moving on. Any more commissioner opinions on pop-ups?
So do any other commissioners wish to speak?
I would like to say something.
Commissioner Sharma?
Yeah. Well, my sentiments are ditto as yours, Commissioner Lappin. And I've seen the space, and I think we have 3 levels, right?
Yeah.
And we have enough space to accommodate quite a lot of things in it.
Yeah.
So pop-up is great. A cafe is good. I'm totally in for all these. So, yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Klein?
Yes, thank you. I love your statement that you read earlier, and I loved the idea of a museum. I love the space being primarily for art, whether it's a museum that's curated or if that an art center or both. Love the idea of pop-up musical artists coming, maybe special artists, if that's a pop-up, like new artists that are not permanently on displayed. Love the idea of food being served, because food, like Juan said, food definitely draws a crowd. Love the idea of an outdoor space that we as residents can come and bring our families and enjoy art and the beautiful ocean and music. Just seems like it could be such an amazing destination. I mean, I know that when I travel to other cities, I stop by museums as well. And I like the idea of there being a historic portion in this art museum, just because I do think that we don't have a museum. I mean, yes, we do. We've got Morel House.
Yeah. But not art, as you're
But
saying.
not art, not historical art.
We have no visual art museum.
Yeah, there's no place that you can walk in and see art from the community or art from, or, like art like at a museum, or art that represents who we are. So I love all the things that were brought up. And it's hard to want to limit it, but the space seems so big. It seems like it can accommodate all of those things.
Yeah.
And even even community members being able to rent the space for their events within this atmosphere of art and music and yummy food. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Christian Kelly?
I agree with everybody, and I also loved your statement. I'm in full agreement. I see the art museum, creative art center, and a cafe. I'm just going ditto with everything, because I think we all feel that space is just such a treasure, and it needs to be utilized in its way. I would just like to, of course, see first and foremost keeping its historical composition. It's the details of that is just really lovely. Yeah, the architecture is just so amazing. So I definitely would like, though, again, to see quite a few of those. Cafe, creative art center, art museum, and being able to have pop-ups. But I'm also a little bit hesitant sometimes with pop-ups. So I think that needs to be defined more. When pop-ups can be a creative side with the arts. It can be a creative side with music. It can be a creative side with venue, with food. But again, I think that needs to be addressed more into what's going to be compatible with the facility. Even though the facility has 3 floors, it's still a smaller setting. So it should be something where it's going to be able to, in the future also be managed where it can be, I'm trying to say.
Like a permanent, like
Permanent,
something permanent,
yeah, permanent,
there,
but also
and have a rotation
where it's not
of
going to
something.
be, permanent. Yeah, exactly.
The rotating exhibit.
Rotating,
like a
like-
permanent with a rotating
Yeah,
Somebody
exhibit.
to manage it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's both.
It's
You're
both, yeah.
looking for both.
I'm looking for both.
And Commissioner Klein?
I just wanted to add that wine tasting, it always goes great with art.
Yes, that's true.
I concur.
And I would like to speak to a couple of things that Commissioner Melendez said. So with regard to the Performing Arts Center, that is a major performing center, and the cost of tickets there could sometimes be prohibitive to the public. The salon type, and when I use the word salon, I mean the smaller type performance art that you could do at a community creative arts center that could be more reasonably priced so that the community could actually come and participate is a different thing. The same applies with food. I think that the center would need to have a permanent cafe operator. And I think it should be leased out to a professional catering cafe operator. And that would not preclude any kind of food special event or demonstration. So you could do your beer tasting, you could do any of those kind of special events that are surrounded by food, because food is also an art. So music, you could do smaller music events. You could do music events that go outside in the summertime that are surround the area. The same with dance, the same with poetry. Collaborating with the library to do some kind of poetry event there would be fabulous. All of these things can be done there. Those are all what I believe is being referred to as pop-up, because they're not a permanent exhibit. They are rotating, they are curated. You could have permanent art there. You could have permanent art in a museum portion, but I think it would be better to open it up so that you do have a non-permanent rotating exhibit, so that you do have a place for local artists to come and show. I mentioned a gift gallery because that's another source of product for our local artists, but also another source of revenue for the thing. There are many, many funding opportunities that you could do. If there's many grants out there that you can apply for, staffing can be done on a permanent basis, but you could also have a group of volunteer staff that would work for the city as volunteers to possibly work in the gift shop. I think that having meeting rooms for special, I call them meeting rooms, but they're essentially rooms for special events that you can rent to the general public for whatever special event they want to do. All of those things there, education programs, you could have things for kids, for adults, classes. We have many talented artists in our community who would love to teach classes. All of that is also a potential revenue source. So there's many, many things, but the overriding propensity is that they're all geared towards art. They're all geared towards art and community involvement and giving something back to the community of beauty and learning and participation. And that for the Public Art Commission, I think that that's what we would all like to see.
Can we just give the chair's statement as our overall consensus instead of having to go through any more questions?
My only, but with the performing arts portion of it, that's all I was trying to get at is we already have one. We'd have to differentiate what we're going to do with this one on the thing. And that's all I'm trying to if
Absolutely.
We're presenting these things to the board, instead of this, no offense, but it's this big idea of using this for everything. And what I'm saying is when it goes up for the community and everything, to have those things, those characteristics dialed in of what we're going to do with this space, because it's still all over the place. And having things on rotation, if anyone's worked into the event industry, you are soliciting clients and things to bring people to that space. That's a job. Then there's going to be 6 months where we don't get anybody. Right? Or 2 months where that space isn't being, I'm not saying that that's the case, but I'm saying those are things to think about as far as the staffing concern is. If we have some semi-permanence in there with some.
It has to be staffed.
But that's what I'm saying is that there may be a balance in there of having something that's consistent as far as a modern art or whatever the museum portion of that, whatever half that is, whatever percentage of having that balance out with all this other happy stuff we've been trying to give back to the community. The major thing that's going to end up that the council's always going to talk about is where this money's coming from. So we have to present these items. Well, how are we going to get to pay for our fun stuff? And if that means that we've got to get a nonprofit and make it a modern art museum, a portion of it, while we curate the other side and charge for that, that's going to pay for all the happy Redondo Beach stuff. So those are the concerns I'm thinking about as
And
far
I
as.
think it's good to talk about those concerns, but I'm not sure that we need to go into great detail at this point, because at this point, I think what we're trying to do is to define an overriding purpose or use of this historic property.
Yes.
And I think everybody is interested in keeping, having it restored to its original glory. I mean, even the Morton fig tree outside is on the historical register. That tree is also on the historic register. I believe the square footage of the library is approximately 13,000 square feet. It has 3 levels, and it has a kitchen, and it has all sorts of things. And all of that can be redesigned, but there's space in there to do a myriad of different things in there.
Brings in, there's the place out in Pasadena that's a larger scale. I forget, it's called something house. I went recently with my family where I forget the name of it. Where
is it?
Out in Pasadena at the end of the 110. It's like it's a library. It's the something library. And they have
The Huntington Library?
Yes. Is that the idea kind of?
No, the Huntington Library is a massive museum.
I know, but we have a building. That's what I'm saying. Everything that we've talked about in this, using this building facility, they have that there. They have a modern art thing. They have a book museum. They have a historical thing. There's a library there. There's all these rooms of different things. I'm saying, as far as us having an idea for our space, it kind of helps to dial these things in, because council ultimately, we're presenting all the ideas to them. It always helps, I think, for us to get things in motion, to have it a little more, less broad and have it a little more dialed in, which was what we're doing. This is, we're just discussing these things now.
right.
So those things help, I think, when we present items to them. So this is the idea how we're going to pay for it, and then this is what we get is the percentage of how I think it helps bringing them up. Those guys, it's money, so it's like, how are we going to pay for this stuff? So we kind of got to think about that too. As far as everything everybody said here, I would love to be able to have the meetings like that meeting space you talk about. I have a problem with that, like finding places that it would be nice to be able to count on that space to have a meeting or something like that there, or, to be able to do my own gallery for a week. Like I could rent the space for 2 days or whatever. So those things definitely appeal to me. But at the same time, it's like, how are we going to keep it running?
That's when, like, if it is an art museum, you usually have a call for artists. Then you would have like a permanent exhibit, but then you have a chance to have a call for artists for like certain rooms would be like a rotating,
But
and they do a time frame
That would be
too.
up to someone to curate that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yes, I think that would be good, but I think that this is a level of detail that we're getting too far into the smaller things that we need to keep. I think our task here is to recommend to City Council the overall basic use that we would like to see at the historic library. And then once they make a decision on what direction they want to go in, then all these wonderful level of details can be discussed.
Exactly,
So we're all
like
saying
you had
art.
mentioned in the beginning.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
Like she had mentioned in the beginning that at this moment, our task is just to figure out what exactly we, as the art commissions, would recommend saying that this is what it's for. Not for us to figure out like the budget yet or who's going to run it. Just like if we had ideally just said, what would you like done with this building? That's our task today, to say exactly what we would want. And I think everyone, just like the museum you spoke of, going to the Getty, going to, the Broad, there's always a permanent fixture, a rotating exhibit, a cafe, and we've all been to museums. And like the gentleman said earlier, you can make it a nonprofit. So later down the line, they'll figure out how to like make that work for the budget of the community. But for now, like we just have to all agree we want art there.
Is there anything that anybody thinks that we don't want? right? Is that a better way to do it? Because we all agree that all the stuff, we all like the same stuff. Is there anything we don't like that we would not like to see there?
That's part of the question,
Yeah,
is there are
right.
certain uses that you would not be favorable? So does anybody have something that,
I mean, well, I'm thinking like for real, like, are we going to be cool with like an S&M display there or anything crazy like that? Well, no, these are the things that's what I'm saying as far as the cannabis initiative and stuff like that. Are we going to be cool with somebody coming in and saying, hey, I want to, do a pop-up of vaping? Those are considerations that come
Well,
up
that's
too.
what
So
there'll be, like, at that point, a staffed person who's going to ultimately create. And
the
then,
question was, is there anything we don't want to see there?
So-
And
so-
I'm just offering what you might not want to see.
Sure. And so if I may, I think, these are just kind of guided questions to help with the
Yeah.
conversation. It sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the commission as a whole is pretty much on the same page.
Yes.
And I think having that level of input, saying Public Art Commission wants it to be an art focus, is more than enough for the council at this stage of the project. And so I don't necessarily think we need to get into what you don't want, because you guys are all already at the right spot. So
All right.
if I may, it almost sounds to me too, unless there's comments specific to the pop-up space, we're kind of veering into question 2, which goes into the shared use concept. And some of that actually, I think you guys have already provided input on. So if I can go to question 2, if the commission's okay with that, unless there's
Please.
more. Okay, great. So question 2, again, goes into what preferred uses should be considered as part of a shared use concept. And so this one is different in a pop-up space in the fact that all of these things that could be happening in the facility can happen at the same time. So the pop-up space is more of the entire facility is used by one user for 2 months, and then someone else comes in and uses it for 2 to 3 months. But a shared use concept goes back to what a lot of your comments referred to, which was maybe the second level is used by this vendor, and then the bottom level is the rotating level or whatever it may be. And so this question is specific again to the shared use concept, which, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like the commission was actually leaning towards that type of a concept because there's more flexibility and creativity with it than doing a pop-up space, but I don't want to speak for the commission. So I will leave that to you guys. Again, I wrote all your comments from the last question. If there's anything additional that was left out, please let me
I think
know.
we've already answered this question.
I think so too, yes.
In great detail. So I don't really think there's anything else that we need to add. We've already talked about pretty much all these things here. I do think it's important when the city is funding something and it's for the benefit of all of their residents and the community, that they, if community wants to have a place to have a meeting or an event or something, that needs to be considered. And so I do think, and it also provides a source of revenue that the city might need in order to continue to run the establishment. So those are things that all should be considered when trying to define the use of the building. Does anybody else have a comment?
no, I think this is the direction we were all speaking of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so let's go into the final question is how best can the city support the community's desire to have the facilities available to them for low cost while utilizing it to its fullest potential? Just kind of touched upon it as well, and some of the comments also throughout the discussion kind of touched upon it again. So I'm happy to also say that it sounds like the Public Art Commission is kind of along the same vein, at least, of the Parks and Rec Commission. The only thing that I did just want to mention is the Rec and Park Commission. They kind of favored implementing some sort of a sliding scale or a reduced rate for residents.
Yeah.
That was not across the board. That was a few of them, and the majority actually were in favor of that. Some were not. They thought the facility should just be a set rate. So, so just want to throw that out there that could be part of the discussion a little bit too. So
Don't you do that with all the classes that you offer, that you have a resident rate that you charge people
There
and you
is.
have a non-resident rate? So to me, that would apply towards classes specifically. I don't know about whether you would want to apply that towards if you're going to use it for an event or meeting space. I don't know whether that would be appropriate at that portion.
right.
Commissioner Melendez?
With the, that rate, I mean, we're always talking about as a South Bay community, right? Like you could have it sliding too for Torrance, El Segundo, PV, whatever. They could get a rate difference as well.
You can always determine who would fall into that window, of course.
Yeah. So to make it profitable and easier for us, that pricing scheme could work.
Yep.
So then even Torrance people are like, I got a good rate.
I disagree.
You would set it what? Just
I
us?
disagree that if it's a community center for the city of Redondo Beach and the city of Redondo Beach is funding it, that it should be specific to the city of Redondo Beach residents.
That no one else would be able to use it?
No, that
you
no
just
one
don't have
else
the
would get a
discounted price.
discounted rate.
Oh, okay.
Just that who gets a
Exclusive to
exclusive
Redondo
discount rate.
Beach.
Anybody could lease this, could do a meeting or lease
got
the
you.
space there, but if you're going to offer, if you're talking about offering a discounted rate, I think that should be a benefit for our residents of our city.
I agree.
Okay. All right. So we did it. That's all the questions.
Oh, yeah.
So unless there's any other feedback.
Can I ask if anybody else would like to make a final comment before we move off of this topic?
No.
So, Ms. Order, you have all the information you need?
I do. Thank you all for bearing with me through the long presentation and letting
Well,
me
thank
kind of
you
pick your
for
brains
this
a little
really,
bit.
it was a very good presentation and you guys did a lot of work. Thank you very much. Okay, so we can now move on to item J2, which is the Commission Subcommittee Review and Project Update. And I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Orta to get it started.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the standing item on the Commission's agenda, which is essentially an opportunity for any current subcommittees to provide just a verbal update to the rest of the Commission. The Public Art Commission has two active subcommittees and then a liaison group. There's a mural subcommittee, a marketing subcommittee, and the Historical Commission liaison group. I do just want to mention that there was a blue folder item that was added specific for the Historical Commission liaison group. And there are some images that I can project onto the screen. I should probably turn that off.
And I'd like to start with the Historical Commission because we have people present who would like to speak and be introduced. So I'd like to start with that subcommittee, please.
Sure. If I may, before we do that, Chair, I just want to remind the Commission too that as the blue folder item, formal discussion of those conceptual plans and that concept behind the Ito Parquet and the work that the committee has done, formal consideration of that cannot happen this evening because it wasn't formally agendized. So the discussion tonight is really just an opportunity for the committee to provide an update to the Commission, share with you all kind of where they're heading, receive some feedback from that, and if the Commission would like to have a formal discussion to really talk in detail on the concepts, we can agendize that at a future discussion. So just procedurally, just wanted to make sure that that was understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if we can start with the Historical Commission update, Commissioner Sharma?
Yes. If you guys have seen the Ito Parquet, let me give you a visual concept of it. It's this green grass. It has trees on the side of the road and the wall, which is opposite. This park, it has a little character. It slopes downwards and then it slopes inwards. So it is very interesting. So having this, can we scroll down to the one more?
Oh, wow.
One more. Yeah. So we have put forth some ideas for mural installations and where the written history of the Japanese American history can be written, and put forth is certain ideas that we kind of liked among our old research. And if you can scroll down, these were certain ideas which for parks can be used. Like that is the style for the national preserves. So where you have the photographs which are black and white and the writing, so it gives you like that museum kind of, the memorial kind of a thing, feel.
Those are cool.
Yeah. We can have like these posts where we can give more details of the struggle of the other Japanese American artists, actually, which were during that period faced the same kind of ordeal. Yeah, now if you can scroll to the first after this. So based on that, Commissioner Kelly came up with a rendering for the park. And the park is a huge park. I mean, it's big enough. This is the left side of the park where she was envisioning cherry blossom trees. And Commissioner Kelly would like to mention some of the details that you put in it.
There you go.
Yeah. The posts, the wooden posts will be at what I just envisioned each end to introduce the park itself for the Ito family. And the fences shown don't go all the way around, but they kind of contain where they kind of formalize it a little bit, but it's still inviting because each ends of the fences you can still walk through. So each of, it's kind of hard to see. Should I go up to the next one? Yeah. So as you can see, it's like open, from the main front facing on Flagler. And then the benches are facing into symbolic like water sculpture. And then the back walls, which have the kind of gray cement coating, the ideas that we presented with some of the historical signage, we're thinking maybe have a possibility to go along there, as well as with the you can't really see, but as well as the posts on each end that each corner of the street on Flagler will have from each end of the park, talking about the Ito family. There's going to be pathways that go. This is currently also a park that's has many community members that engage in there. So we want to encourage that so they can go, and then with this new park that contains the history, will engage, as well as the school across the way, with the historical markers that we propose too. So anyway, there'll be pathways going through that too that we thought would be engaging. Actually, from this little post here, you can see by the cherry tree, the post, hopefully pathways would go where you could walk through. There's a lot of people that walk their dogs and their kids, and they're walking through. So pathways would be engaging too, to go through where they'd still have grass, but anyway. So, yeah, just to get a visual idea.
Yeah, we created like the Zen Japanese kind of a parquet with the cherry trees and the boulders and the water features. So
Yeah.
kind of incorporates
I wanted
more
to have
feel
respect.
about
We
it,
wanted to
yes.
have respect for the culture, and so and as far as the flowers go to the coloring and the particular just different flowers that they can traditionally have in there too. So yes.
Yeah, so that was our update.
Yeah.
So
I'm
we
trying
would
to think
like
of what
to
else I can
actually-
add and what I'm missing.
Yeah.
So you're proposing to do the landscaping and then choose one of the other types of installations that you showed us the pictures of in addition to the landscaping, is that correct?
I'm proposing that, I think that we're proposing, it's not just a sculpture, it's a unique, this is a unique kind of art project because it is a parquet, it is history, and then there's art. So it's kind of a collaboration. And every garden is an art piece. So so I feel like it's kind of a collaboration with it, with what it should be, hopefully for the family to give them, what hopefully they would like to see as.
So I think we should agendize this for our next meeting, and I think we should come to some kind of conclusion on how we would like to move forward at that next meeting. I think as part of that, we need to talk about the landscaping and is the vision, the Public Art Commission would pay for the landscaping as part of the whole art installation, but then that would have to be maintained. And what department of the city would maintain that and make sure that that is okay? I'm sure that it is, but we need to make sure of that. And then also, in addition to the landscaping, what you're proposing for the depiction of the history in this surrounding area. And then once we agendize that, then we can discuss it and come to a conclusion and move forward to implement that project at our next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, today we were looking towards.
No, I know, but I mean.
That's, yeah.
Right, and then that would go to city council for their approval.
I do got a question. As far as just design-wise, I'm under the interpretation that these fences here didn't land the way you wanted them?
They totally didn't,
Okay,
yeah.
so my question is, you thought aerial, right? Like if you looked at the park from a sky view, or
I was doing it from Ripley and Flagler, and so
Yeah,
my whole vision was to have, for us to have, it needed to be kind of contained. It was too open. It needed
guidance.
When I'm walking past, and we sat there quite often, we sat and looking around, I wanted it to be open because it should be open space to go learn and of that that terrible tragedy with what had happened. But it's also a learning where you grow from it and you go and you take away from it to do better. That's how I was like envisioning it. So the fences shouldn't be closed in. They were just kind of open to kind of contain that area.
To demise the area.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And so, but they didn't come up exactly like and I truly apologize. That was my.
Well, that's why I question. I kind of got the idea, especially that part on the other slide. If we can go back a couple. Nope, the next one. So that part, you would enter the park, and then if you slide back up, if you go back up to the second.
It's open on both sides.
Right, so then after, there'd be a fence blocking off this, like a curved fence to block off this area?
Well, it should be on the side and then the side. And then this was kind of like open, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was kind of contained, but still open.
But still
That's
open.
the idea. A lot like the camps. They were, you're supposed to be an American, but you're not. You're it's the same idea as what I kind of grasped with the fences. It's a good design.
Are there any other questions, comments? So before I call for a motion to agendize this, can we please have our guests come up and introduce themselves?
I think you have some public comment too. This is Helene Albright, who is a descendant of the Ito family.
My
This is her
parents.
husband, Phil, who they both went to Redondo High School.
Not him.
He's a Seahawk.
He's from New York.
We enjoyed the presentations.
They're all beautiful. And
Yes,
really,
you guys have done a great job as far as concept. Just picking one is a hard thing. We understand. Are there any you'd like to look at?
Did you want to say something?
We are so very happy that you were able to join us this evening.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
so much
you.
for coming, really.
Thank you for inviting us. It's great. Just
We
looking
appreciate
at this last night, I was speechless.
And we thank you.
First of all, I want to thank the Public Arts Commission. When I came to you with, I wanted some public art input, you guys knocked this out of the park. I think it started with Commissioner Pucci and Melendez with the benches and then expanded. I actually liked the fence at the north end. It's kind of backwards looking, but it actually, I think, adds to the symbolism of it. What you've actually created here is probably one of the more unique parks in all of the area. This would be educational, commemorative. Remember, you have an elementary school right across the street, so they'll benefit from that. It's visually appealing. I would never have thought of making landscaping as a form of art, but you've incorporated it there. So I really am appreciative, and I'm glad that the members of the family like it. The one piece that you didn't show and very clearly is that little fountain that you, or zoom in.
It's there, it's just not
Yeah,
zoomed in.
yeah, sorry.
But there's a lot of symbolism, and even if you've seen the fence, which I know both of you have, how dilapidated it is, that even that's visually appealing in the rendering that we have. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
And even if you can't agendize it, I'm hoping that we can include it on our historical commission meeting, just so that we can get an update, so that they understand what's going on with it as well. Thank you.
And Helene grew up right there.
Oh, perfect.
Did, a block away.
75 years.
Wow.
I'm 76.
No way.
Wow, you look great.
I know, I don't believe
Wonderful.
it.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you so
much.
For coming.
Thank you so much.
And I also want to thank Commissioner Sharma and Commissioner Christian Kelly for the beautiful work that you have done. And now can I please call for a motion to agendize this at our next meeting of the Public Art Commission?
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Pucci's made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Melendez has seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So the next subcommittee is the Marketing Subcommittee. Commissioner Klein?
We have nothing new to report. The one thing we did talk about, I think we did talk about this. I'm sorry, Kelly. We talked about doing another flyer, I think, for the murals. But then that's what I think it was. We wanted to do another flyer, and I think we had to agendize it at this
Well, and
meeting.
we're not at the point where we're ready to discuss that yet. So I think that would be part of discussion for the mural committee to talk about it and where we are with what's coming up from the direction of city council. So
It's a marketing thing, though.
can
It's
we,
a certain part, yeah.
can we postpone that until after further discussion?
Yeah, but I think the idea was to put it on the agenda that it would be okay for us to make a call to artists, to get that call to artists going.
We're not ready to do that yet, is what I'm saying. So I would like to discuss the mural committee before we talk about that. I'll come back to you, is what I'm saying.
Got it.
Okay? All right. So So then I'd like to move then to the mural subcommittee report. And then I would like to take the director's report after that and then come back to the marketing subcommittee. Thank you.
Okay, for the mural committee, we met and we have an approved space, which is at the corner of Gertruda and Catalina, to implement a mural there. We are building the package to demonstrate to you guys what we have in mind and present it to you, as well as another space in North Redondo behind the I forget the building.
The community services.
The community service center, yes. So that we would both have both murals actively going, one in North Redondo as well as one in South Redondo, and both spots are free to have murals started. So we'd like to add this to the agenda for next meeting, where we can present those mural concepts. Along with that meeting, we discussed the portion of the mural committee as well. We feel the duty as our little sub is figuring out how we can create a artist pool, and that I think that segues to the call to artists, because with murals coming up and things of that nature, we really would like to take some action on creating an artist pool.
So we would like to agendize for our next meeting to have a presentation from the subcommittee on the Public Works Maintenance wall at Catalina and Gertruda, and the wall behind the Community Service Building at Artesia and Green. That would be part one. And then we would like to talk about, part two would be to talk about creating instead of going out for a call for artists individually each time we want to do a mural, that we would begin to do a global call for artists where we would vet and gather mural artists so that we have people that we can utilize for this and future projects. And perhaps if we get enough, we could even say something to the effect of, okay, so maybe we're going to just put this call for artists for a specific project to 5 of the people in the mural pool that we think would be good for this. And so we have resources, basically, is what that is.
Yes.
But the actual agenda items would be the discussion of the mural global call for artists as a pool, and then the 2 locations for potential moving forward for a mural immediately at both the South and the North Redondo locations. So if somebody could call for a motion to agendize those 2 things.
I'll make the motion to agendize.
Commissioner Pucci has made the motion and Commissioner Sharma has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So with that, I know that in the director's support report, Ms. Orta has some other additional things to talk about with regard to murals. So I'd like to move forward into that, please. Ms. Orta?
Thank you, Chair. So specific to the mural ordinance, on May 10th, the City Council had a discussion that was connected to its strategic plan. So we had, the council wanted to have a discussion on whether the city should consider developing a mural ordinance. Currently, the city does not have a mural ordinance in its municipal code. And so the City Council, after its discussion, essentially motioned to have the Public Art Commission consider whether the city needs to develop a mural ordinance. And then the second part is to also develop a strategy to better implement the public art master plan. And so kind of an arm to this discussion is the fact that the city of Glendale is currently going through a process of developing its own mural ordinance. And part of that process has been best practices research. They've reached out to a number of cities that have existing mural ordinances. So they've done a lot of the work on the front end, and that we could certainly benefit from if the commission decided that it was in the city's best interest to develop a mural ordinance. So what we plan to do is, as soon as Glendale gets to that point where they develop their ordinance and has all of that data and information available to share, we would then bring all of that as one package per se to the commission, so that when you consider whether we need to develop an ordinance or not, you'll have that more recent kind of can't think of the word that I'm trying to say, but the real life example to look at to see if it's something that we should implement in the city of Redondo Beach. All that to say, Glendale is looking at implementing or presenting their ordinance to their city council in July or August. So just kind of looking ahead, our plan is that we would bring that discussion to the commission around that time. So that's pretty much how the council direction was. And then just so you all know that we will plan that on a future agenda.
So I would like to mention that when we talk about the master plan and how we can better utilize the master plan needs to be updated. It has not been updated, I believe, since 2016. And we've had this discussion in the past. There's also some things that are included in the master plan that are not being done that probably should be done. So when we look at that as a whole, it is, if we're going to have to review that, that is the time to update the plan and make it more usable in today's world. So
yes, and that could certainly be one of a part of the recommendations of the commission, is that not only do we figure out how to better implement the master plan, but also update it before we go to implement it. And so certainly that should be part of the discussion and consideration at that time.
Thank you. Could I then ask Commissioner Klein, based on all of this information, are you ready to discuss wanting to go out for a call for artists flyer, or do you want to table that until we see where we are with all these other discussion items?
Well, I think that we should I think we should do the call to artists sooner than later, because it's going to take time. We might as well get the ball rolling. I think our whole subcommittee agreed that we were ready to find the talent. Doesn't mean we have to do anything with them, but they'll be here and we'll know who they are and we'll know how to reach them when the time is ready.
I think if you would like to put that on the agenda, we can talk about it. I think that until we decide as a commission whether we want to, whether we are going to move forward with creating a pool, because that call for artists is going to be different than a call for artists just for each specific individual project. So once we decide that, then we can move forward into the marketing aspect. But there's no reason why those can't be on the agenda at the same meeting.
For sure. The idea, though, is specific to the murals.
I beg your pardon?
The idea of this marketing call to art, the art call to artists is specific to murals, not any other projects. Like, basically, it's a flat surface.
So is the pool for creating a mural pool for artists. We're not going to do a call for artists for every type of art imaginable. We can't.
No, that's what I'm just making sure we're clear on it. It would behoove us to get going on anything, on getting those muralists sending us their applications or however we're going to do this to have that.
That's what we're talking. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that we should put that on the agenda to talk about after we talk about and decide what it is that we're calling the artists for.
Well, that's the thing that I'm disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm saying that we should put the call to artists for mural artists out now for potential future projects in the city of Redondo Beach, and have the artists, so we know so we have artists to choose from when we're ready, when we have a mural picked out and we have everything vetted and we know when we're going to do it, we just call that artist and say, we want you.
But that's what we're talking about doing. But it has to be agendized. We can't decide that tonight, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm saying, yes, can we put that on the agenda?
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah. Okay, all right. So can I call for a motion to put the mural marketing flyer on the agenda for our next meeting following the discussion on whether we're going to create a pool and how we're going to move forward on that?
Can I just ask for clarification?
Yes,
And
please.
I'm probably the only one confused, so I just want to make sure. So the most recent motion where we are going to agendize the 2 locations for the murals, the second part of that motion was to do a global call for artists. Is that specific just to those 2 locations? Or that's a blanket?
No, that's
Okay.
that's what I meant by global. I didn't mean
Right.
global internationally. I meant that instead of just doing, if we decide to put a mural on the Catalina, on the maintenance yard wall, instead of going out for a call for artists specific only to that wall,
Correct.
we should go out for a call for artists to create a pool of mural artists that can be used for all upcoming mural projects. So,
Yes.
yeah, so
Great.
that's what we're talking about.
Okay, that's,
We're all agreeing.
I
We're all
appreciate-
agreeing. We're just figuring out how we're agreeing with each other.
I think, so I just want to make sure then, taking it a step further to the current motion, the motion would be to agendize discussion of a marketing plan for the call for
Okay,
artists?
so there's 3 things, there's three pieces of this. The first piece is the piece we just talked about for the creating a pool of artists. The second piece is if we decide to do that, then we're going to want to have the marketing committee move forward to do a flyer to be able to do that. The third piece is that we want to move forward with finalizing and agreeing upon the locations of the 2 murals that we want to move forward with immediately. One at Gertruda and one at the maintenance yard and one at the community services in North Redondo. So we will be moving forward on all of those things, talking about them simultaneously. Those are the 3 things that will fall under the mural umbrella, if you will.
Okay, thank you. I do think we were all on the same page,
Okay.
just saying it differently. So thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Okay, so everybody's happy with
Yeah,
all?
we just need to help with you lining it up.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. Okay, so then now
We appreciate your patience with us.
No. Thank you. So then I believe that covers everything from the mural committee, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so then going back to the director's report, I know there are several other line items on there that Ms. Orta would like to update us on.
Yes, thank you. So we did want to provide a brief update on the transit center. As you know, we will be bringing a future item to determine the future art piece that should be installed at that location. And the construction, unfortunately, has been delayed. It's expected that the facility will be fully open and the project completed early fall. And so we do still have it kind of scheduled that as soon as the location is safe and available for some tours and some walking opportunities for you all, we will get that scheduled. So just want to let you know it's still on our minds. As soon as it's available, we will let you know. And then the final item, can you guys hear me okay?
We lost
Still
you.
red. I know, that's kind of, oh, there it goes. The final item is for the utility box art program. We had some really great momentum with that a few months ago. Unfortunately, we hit yet again another snag that I'm hopeful we finally got over that final hump. Essentially what happened is we provided a number of the digital files to the vendor to print the vinyl and then wrap everything. So we thought we were so close to the finish line, found out that the vendor needed each digital file to be formatted specifically to the dimensions of each utility box. And so we did reach out to all of the artists. We had to have site surveys completed on each one of the utility boxes, which we just received that information. I did just today email all of the utility box dimensions to the pending artists, so they should have that information so they can reformat their digital files. I did get a confirmation from the vendor that as soon as they do receive those files, it should be a very quick turnaround for them to print and install. So I am very hopeful. I don't want to give any dates. I don't want to throw any promises out there, but I can just assure you that looking ahead, to the best of our knowledge, we have been able to make sure that there will hopefully be no more road bumps on this. And once we get through this phase, I am very hopeful that future phases, we will have a very good blueprint of what needs to be done. So I appreciate all of your patience. It's definitely working towards that.
Thank you for all your hard work on that.
Absolutely.
I have a question in regards to that. Is this a new thing that this company is asking of? Because I would think it would be their specialty to know how to wrap things that are awkwardly shaped and like not just a box.
It is, but it's yes, this company is actually the same company that we use to wrap all the ones in the first few phases.
Yeah,
so
that's
they're
what I was thinking. We
experienced
haven't
with
changed
it.
companies.
I don't know if that was a requirement at that time and maybe they had issues
it
and that's
was.
why they're asking for more specific.
No, it was a requirement because we have very oddly shaped utility boxes and they're not all standard.
Okay,
And
that was
so
All
if
different
an
sizes.
artist's piece is going to fit on the box, they're asking for the artist input of how, so they don't mess up their art in a way that they would find offensive or a problem.
So all the artists in the past have done this.
yes.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I have firsthand experience with how challenging it was. I had to work directly with the company, Spin Art, and we had to talk on the phone and talk about each particular panel and the size of each panel. And it was actually, when we did that, it came out perfect. But prior to that, they kept sending me samples that weren't correct. And so I think that, I don't know if we have time, if a budget allows for them to collaborate with each artist, because that's what makes it go much smoother is when we get to talk directly with them, and then it immediately gets cleared up. But it was a lot of confusion before that.
Yeah, they did make themselves available to speak to the artist or for us to even do a three-way call or video chat or whatever it may be. So they're committed to helping out in any way possible because they understand the challenges of meeting all these requirements.
So the measurements, the surveys that were done, were those only for the boxes we have in the chute? Like,
The one,
or did they go survey all of them? Because those boxes aren't moving.
So the ones that we did have them survey are the ones that have been approved by the commission.
Okay.
Which includes a handful of ones that we haven't even taken the final license agreements to city council for. So to that end, we've done the site surveys at least for the next batch that will come through. So that's where I'm saying I'm hopeful we've kind of tried to cross our T's ahead of time.
So
those
with
ones.
that, is there something we have to do to make sure that this survey continues so we can get all the boxes dimensions before?
Nothing you
we
guys
start
need
putting
to
up-
do. We
No,
added it
that's
to our
staff.
list.
Okay.
We added it to our checklist to make sure that they're done at the right stage so that as soon as we get the license agreement signed, we have the information to shift over to the artist.
Okay,
whereas
because
we
the
weren't
idea
aware of
being
that
we're going to
ahead.
have an influx of,
Yes, more coming in. Yes.
okay.
Okay, and that concludes all of my updates for the commission.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we will move on to item K, member items and referrals to staff. Do any commissioners have any announcements, presentations, or anything they would like to refer to staff? Okay, and with that, then I am going to request a motion to adjourn the meeting. And I will announce that the next meeting of the Redondo Beach Public Art Commission will be a regular meeting to be held on Wednesday, July 27th at 7 p.m. in the Redondo Beach City Council chambers located at 415 Diamond Street, Redondo Beach. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Pucci has made the motion. May I have a second?
I second.
Commissioner Christian Kelly has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:59 p.m.
Ooh, not 9.
Thank you, everybody.
I need one of these.
Used to go long.